Hello everyone, welcome to my first horror narration video. This time I will be telling you all a story, except this time it'll be fake. I wrote this one actually, had a lot of fun writing it, hoping to make a little series out of this same idea. Story's called I Downloaded a Sleep Analysis app. I don't think I'll ever sleep again. I will leave a link in the description to my original story. It's on Reddit r/no sleep. Anyways, I hope you all enjoy. And yeah, enjoy the siege clips in the background. And there's a bonus clip at the end. So stick around for that. Let me begin this by saying I haven't been able to get any meaningful sleep in 2 days, so the exact details are a little fuzzy. For the last month, I have been using a sleep tracking app to help me fix my sleep schedule, which was screwed during the early part of my winter break. My goal with the app was to get it back on track by the time the new semester had started. The app worked like a charm, as it would log any time that I had made noise while sleeping. This would allow me to listen to noises I made throughout the night and delete them the following day if they weren't of any concern. During the waning days of break, I got asked by my grandparents to house sit their place in the suburbs for 5 days while they were on a European cruise, offering me $100 per day. My only responsibility while house sitting was to water their plants and make sure the place wasn't robbed. Other than that, I was free to do whatever I wanted. On my first night there, I had planned on inviting 10 or so friends over and having a small party. When I was younger and spent time at their house, I always believed it was haunted. However, as I grew older, that fear had all but disappeared. My mom tried to convince younger me that she had used a Ouija board in the house with her friends and summoned a spirit. Since then, whenever I was in the basement, younger me always swore he had seen shadows of someone moving around despite being the only person down there. As I grew older, however, I had written it off as a paranoia. When I had arrived at the house, my grandparents had already left for their cruise. I entered through the garage using the code. The house was 2 stories with a finished basement. On the second floor, there were 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, while the first floor had a bedroom and a bathroom on it. When someone entered the front door, they would be greeted by an entry hall with an L-shaped stair leading to the second floor. Once I got inside, I went up to the guest room and placed my bags on the bed. The guest room was immediately to the left of the stairs once you reached the top. After unpacking my bags and making myself comfortable in my new room, I ran to the corner store down the block and picked up some snacks for the party that night. I then decided to head downstairs where they kept the liquor for parties to see what drinks I would be able to sneak off with for my friends. When I went downstairs, I got scared by a ghoul decoration between the fridge and the stairs. Its head turned towards the fridge. My grandparents must have bought it for the most recent Halloween, explaining why I had never seen it before. After jumping slightly at the sight of the ghoul, I grabbed some bottles of liquor from the cabinets and went upstairs to prepare. After a few hours of prepping the house for my friends, I unlocked the door and they trickled in. I won't bore you with the details, but everyone had a good time and had left around 1 in the morning. I went back to the guest room and began running the app. I was able to sleep through the first night before waking up at around noon. After going around the house watering all my grandmother's plants, I checked my phone and went through all of the entries. Everything seemed normal until one entry at 3 in the morning. As I played it, curious about what sounds I may have made, I realized the noises were not coming from me, but were footsteps outside my bedroom door. They made their way downstairs before the audio recording had finished. Out of curiosity, I went and messaged everyone who had attended the party the previous night, asking if anyone had left later than I thought. To my relief, my friend, let's call him Sam, had responded that he went to lay down at around midnight, waking up and leaving at 3, not wanting to wake me. I breathed a sigh of relief, going and checking the door, seeing that it was for sure unlocked from when he had left. I quickly locked the door and returned to my room to check the rest of the audio logs. At around 4:30 in the morning, there was another log noise. As I played it, I realized there was also footsteps outside my bedroom door. I, however, chalked it up to my nerves getting the better of me and Sam forgetting what time he had truly left the house. The second day was uneventful. Having already watered all the plants, I simply spent the day sitting in front of the TV, switching between watching YouTube and horror movies. At one point, I did have to go downstairs to grab myself a frozen pizza. When I went downstairs, I noticed that the ghoul's head was now turned to face the stairs. At first, it gave me chills seeing that the head had moved. However, I assumed that someone from the party had gone in the basement and messed with the ghoul. I shrugged off the feeling of unease and walked past it to grab the pizza before heading upstairs. At around 9, I had drifted off while watching a slasher movie, being awakened by a scream about half an hour later. Realizing just how tired I was, I turned off the TV and headed upstairs. Once I got into bed, I turned on the sleep tracker. I'd slept comfortably for a second night in a row before waking up at 10 in the morning. I went through my sleep logs once again. This time I saw a log at 2:15. However, when I clicked on it, I only heard breathing. However, 30 seconds into the audio, I heard what I swore was a door slamming shut on the first floor. I went downstairs cautiously for two reasons: to ensure that the doors were still locked, and to hopefully pinpoint which door had been slammed to make that noise. When I got down to the first floor, the front and back door were locked, along with the garage door being closed. Every door on the first floor was open except for two closet doors and a door leading down to the basement. I worked up the courage to open the door leading into the basement. As I walked down the stairs, I was met by the ghoul decoration on the landing. I jumped, tripping as I sprinted up the stairs and slammed the basement door shut. I didn't want to overreact. However, I wanted to make sure the house didn't have an intruder hiding inside waiting for me. I went to my car and called Sam, asking him to come over. In half an hour, he had arrived. Him and I did a complete sweep of the first and second floor initially, seeing as those were the areas where I planned on staying for the final 2 days. During the sweep, I asked him if he knew about anyone turning the ghoul's head during the party. He turned to me and said, "No one went in the basement that night. We'd assumed you locked the door." That response sent a shiver down my spine. I asked him, "You're messing with me, right? The door doesn't lock." He shook his head before continuing the search. After searching every inch of the 2 floors, a sense of dread overwhelmed me. Well, I guess it's time to look into the basement. I seemed to choke on my words. The last thing I wanted to do was be face to face with the ghoul again. I opened the door and led Sam into the basement, showing him how I was greeted by the ghoul. Now that I had Sam with me, I seemingly regained some of my courage. I picked up the ghoul decoration and moved it back into the corner it was initially in, making sure to catch the light switch to turn on the basement lights along the way. As we searched along the basement, I saw nothing out of the ordinary. Everything seemingly was going well until Sam gasped, swearing he saw a shadow in the back of the basement. We went over to inspect the back wall of the basement, and after a few minutes, we satisfied ourselves that no one was down there. We turned off the lights and quickly made our way back to the first floor. Once we got upstairs, we closed the door and put a chair in front of it, just to be safe. "I swear I saw something down there," Sam pleaded, begging me to believe him. I reassured him. I swore I have seen the shadow of someone move down there too before. I decided to order him dinner to repay the favor. I ordered wings, and while he drank beer with his dare, I stuck to soda, not wanting to get intoxicated if something sinister was truly happening. Once Sam had left, I made sure all the lights were on. I know it seems childish, but it was the only way to feel safe sleeping in the house. I had to forego my normal routine of watching horror movies and stuck to comedic movies that night, thinking maybe I'd scared myself into believing all the weird happenings, when in reality everything could be explained away. After about an hour, I made my way to bed, the house bathed in light. I closed my door. Even though the light was on in my room, I saw it as a barrier between me and whatever was lurking throughout the house at night. Even with the door shut, I could see under the door that the light in the hallway was brighter as it was streaming into my room. As I lay in bed, sleep could not come to me. I am not sure whether it was because of the light or my own fear. Eventually, I must have drifted off for a few moments, as I awoke to it still being dark outside. I checked my phone, and the time read 1:49 a.m. I did not have the sleep detector running, so I was not able to check if the strange noises were recorded while I was asleep. However, the lack of recording was the least of my worries. After a few minutes of lying in bed, scrolling through social media, I heard what sounded like footsteps. They began in the entry hallway, eventually working their way towards the stairs. I lay there in silence, not knowing what to do. This was the first time I was conscious when whatever was making the noises was active. As I lay there, the stairs began to creak. Whatever, or whoever, was climbing them was slowly going up each step. After the 14th step, they had reached the top. I held my breath in anticipation, not knowing what would happen if they had decided to open my door. I noticed a shadow block out the light that was sneaking its way under the door. This triggered my fight or flight response, and seeing as there was nowhere for me to run, I began shouting, "What do you want? I have a gun, so don't you think about opening the door." No response came from the other side, but after a few moments, the shadow that had obstructed the light from entering through the crack was gone. I thought that was strange, as I hadn't heard any footsteps leave. After that, I couldn't lay in my bed anymore. I sat up and scrolled on my phone, hoping that would keep my mind occupied from the close call with the person on the other side of the door. After hours of keeping myself occupied, the sun began to shine through my windows, and I was able to convince myself that what I saw wasn't real. I was just sleep deprived, I told myself. When people aren't sleeping properly, they hear auditory hallucinations and see shadows, right? That was a good explanation for me. Plus, I only needed to last 2 more days before I would be able to go home and sleep in my own bed. I decided that the best way to keep myself safe would be to stay awake for the next 2 days. Even though I was able to convince myself that what was happening wasn't real, I didn't want to risk catching something through the sleep tracking app that would make my fears worse. I went through the rest of the day on autopilot, drinking massive amounts of caffeine in an attempt to keep myself awake. I also went down into the living room and began watching some more television, hoping that would help keep me awake. By 10 p.m., though, I felt myself begin to drift off to sleep. I thought, what harm could happen sleeping on the couch with all the lights on, especially if I limit it to only an hour? Most of the occurrences were only happening in the early hours of the morning, so if I woke up before midnight, I should be fine. I set multiple alarms, all of which were in 5-minute increments between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. I then spent some time debating whether I should use the sleep tracking app. On one hand, it could be useful for a couple of reasons: to either document in case something were to happen to me, or to help myself be aware of what happened near me while I was in the land of unconsciousness. On the other hand, however, that app has done nothing but promote fear for me. I decided the two pros outweighed the one con, especially in the case that something sinister was truly happening. With that, I turned on the sleep tracking app and was able to fall asleep, making sure to sit up on the couch. When I woke up, my 11:25 alarm was going off, meaning I had slept through 5 alarms. As I woke up, though, I noticed that the lights in the adjacent rooms had all gone off, leaving my only light source as a lamp on a table beside the couch and the TV. I assumed at first that the lights must have all just burnt out, as I had never seen my grandparents replace any of them, and they were all installed around the same time. I don't know what made me do it, but out of morbid curiosity, I checked the sleep tracking app, and sure enough, there were 3 entries. I started with the most recent one, which occurred at 11:24. When I played the noise, I quickly recognized it as simply me shuffling around on the couch right before I had woken up. I sighed in relief, again as I realized that meant I wasn't in any immediate danger. I don't know what compelled me to check on the other 2 logs, and I don't know if what happened next would have happened if I'd had it, but I clicked on the first recorded sound at 10:19. The sound that was recorded almost sounded like the wind or someone shushing. It was eerie. However, I was able to convince myself that it was me making the sound as I slept. Looking back, I wish I hadn't clicked on the second one, because I can never forget what I heard. The log said the sound occurred at 11:02, and when I first clicked on it, I heard a calming feminine voice begin by saying, "What do I want? What do I want? What do I want?" over and over again for about 20 seconds. That was enough to freak me out, but just as I was about to turn off the app, the voice changed from a calming feminine voice to a raspy deep one, responding with a loud, "I want you." After hearing that voice, I closed the app and shot up to grab my keys. I did not care about the money anymore. All I cared about was leaving the house safely. I ran into the kitchen to grab my keys, but something made me stop in my tracks. I heard footsteps coming from upstairs. However, instead of the slow, methodical steps I had heard the previous night, they were more hurried, as if they were rushing at me. They made their way to the stairs and began descending them. This cut off my exit from the front door, leaving me with two options: the back door or the garage. I decided to go out of the garage, as all I would have to do is open it up and get to my car, instead of going around back and having to hop a fence. I sprinted to the garage and slammed the opener as hard as I could. The garage could not open fast enough. When the garage had finally opened, I sprinted to my car and put the key in the ignition. I didn't care about the bags I was leaving upstairs, as long as I left with my most valuable possession, my life. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw a figure in the guest room overlooking it. It appeared to be glaring down at me. I am writing this in a hotel room about 10 minutes away. Too exhausted to make the 2-hour drive back home tonight, I look forward to getting a good night's sleep, finally. I'll use the app to make sure I am safe, and I will update everyone with what happens. Update 1. 2 days have passed, and my grandparents are back home from their cruise. I'm heading to the house to meet them and grab my stuff. I will not tell them what happened, as I don't want them to think I am insane, or worse, scare them out of the house. Clearly, whatever is there hasn't harmed them. During the 2 nights I spent at the hotel, I used the Sleep Tracker app to make sure nothing had followed me from the house, and nothing out of the ordinary occurred, other than my snoring. I went over and just grabbed my stuff, and despite staying at the hotel the final 2 nights, they paid me all $500 promised to me. While at the house, nothing seemed to happen out of the usual. I heard no footsteps occurring in areas where no one was supposed to be. I'll begin to drive home and update everyone when I get there. Update 2. I have made it home, and I'm ready to pass out in my own bed. Maybe everything was just in my head. Clearly, they haven't been bothered by strange occurrences in their own house. It's possible I had too much to drink on that first night, and from there, everything spiraled out of control. This should be the last update I leave you guys, as I don't foresee anything happening anymore. Update 3. I was wrong. The first week at home was fine, but the last 2 days I have heard strange things happening on the sleep tracker. 2 nights ago, I heard footsteps, again coming from outside of my room. This wouldn't be alarming if I didn't live alone and have no pets. I called the police, and they searched the house, but they found nothing. They told me to call them if anything else happened and if I continued to hear the noises. Last night, I had another strange log. When I played it, I heard a shushing noise again. Before the raspy voice began speaking, it told me, "You thought you were free from me. Next time you fall asleep, you are mine." I don't know what to do. I am exhausted and feel my eyes starting to close. Maybe after posting this update, I'll have a quick nap. Everyone who made it this far, thank you so much for listening to my narration. I had so much fun writing this story a few weeks ago. I wrote it actually, and I just spent some time getting these clips. I tried to do a lot of them naturally, and I did a few of the last ones tonight to get the clips to have as the background, so you can use the clips I had to make it a little less scary if you get scared easily, or you can use these clips because these are some sick Siege gameplay. Anyways, the reason I'm including this clip, other than just to say thank you for making it this far and thank you for the support, is this was a really sick ace I got. I don't remember when, but I remember I freaked out, and if I hadn't turned out the audio, you'd probably hear me screaming as I got the ace because I was so proud of myself. Anyways, yeah, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed. This was a fun story to write. I'm hoping to make a series out of it. I did do a sequel to it. However, it was not as good because I had hoped to do a different direction with the writing. And sadly, you know, people wanted a sequel, so I decided to give it to them, just to kind of wrap it up all neatly. It was not the best work. However, it is a little bit of world building, so I might include narration of that, but it will be nowhere near as good as this, nor will it be as long. Anyways, you could also tell how old this clip is. You could still cook frags, which anyone who plays now knows you can't do anymore. But anyways, yeah, thank you. If you want the sequel, comment that you want the sequel. If you don't, or if I don't do a sequel, you could read it on Reddit. It's on my profile. And yeah, I'm hoping to make a little series out of this. Start kind of start a little bit of world building. That was the purpose of the sequel. Was it introduce some ideas about kind of the beings that we encounter in these stories. So yeah. Anyways, like I said, thank you so much for listening, for making it this far. Hope you all enjoy my sick ace gameplay because it's so common. As you see, I also got a knife ace earlier. It's probably, I think it's the second clip. Is my knife ace, which was just from quick play. That was also really fun. We were losing our minds. I might upload the uncut on audio version of it at some point to like YouTube Shorts. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. I hope you enjoyed the narration. And I will see you all next time after I finish my ace.